Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing okay. Now, today I've got a very special guest. Ellis is like my Twitter bestie. I'm very, very happy to have him on today. We'll be talking about the season, our thoughts on the season. Thank you so much for joining me today, Ellis. How are you doing?
Oh, thank you for having me, Soph. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm doing well, thank you. Really good. Obviously, it's sad that the season's come to an end, so not much football to look forward to in the coming
Yeah.
week. But no, doing really well, thank you.
Oh, I'm glad you're okay, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. Obviously, on my channel, I've spoken like about bits about the season, but it'd be good to go into it. And yeah, I wanted to start off with that. We did finish second, I think, about 5 points behind Man City. What are your overall thoughts on the season? Do you feel more happy that we've come so far, or do you feel more disappointed that we missed out on the league?
So I think there's different parts to this. I feel like it's a bittersweet season, mostly because if you were to have interviewed every Arsenal fan in the world and asked them, right, what are your expectations for the season? Probably 80, 90% would have said the key focus has to be qualifying for the Champions League, top four.
Yeah,
And um, and obviously that I might be vilified for this by a proportion of fans that say, oh no, we should be aiming higher and this, that, and the other. And that, whilst I agree with that to an extent, majority of fans would have said the pinnacle really should be qualification for the Champions League. And if we don't achieve that, then we'll have to sort of reassess our options really going forward. But we did achieve that, and not only did we achieve that, we obviously exceeded expectations so much that we challenged City for the majority of the season up until the last 4 or 5 games. So from that side, it's disappointing because we were just so close, and there's
yeah.
obviously a part of you that thinks, oh, are we going to get a chance to do this again? This was out. We were kind of the underdogs, and no one really expected us to qualify for top four, let alone challenge City for so long. So yeah, I kind of feel really it's split. I would say it's bittersweet, as I say. But the good thing is, I would say that it sets the precedent for next season, doesn't it? And I think that now that we've had a taste for a title challenge, that's that's now the expectation for next season.
Yeah, I think, like you said, like going into the season that's just gone, like because we missed out to top four, I thought we have to get top four. Like, if we don't get top four, then something might need to change. Or so I think not having Champions League football for such a long time, wasn't good. So I thought for me going into the season to get in the top four is what I want. And in that sense, we've probably done better than we thought we had. But I suppose because and how it's ended. I think we were doing good. I think it was sort of the last probably 10 games without Saliba. We sort of struggled a bit. For you, I just wanted to get your thoughts on what do you think Arsenal struggled with at the end? Like, what do you think sort of went wrong for the team?
I think experience and pressure. Whilst we have people, players in the squad that have had a taste for success. We've obviously signed Jesus, Zinchenko, Jorginho's also won a Champions League trophy, and he's won. I think he's won the title as well with Chelsea. Don't hold me to that. But he's also won multiple trophies with Chelsea. So there's experience in the team, but I think Arsenal haven't collectively had that experience.
Mm.
And I think we're sort of still 1 or 2 years away from that. And I think just in the end, the pressure got to the boys, and also we don't have much depth. Unfortunately, we added a bit in January window with Trossard
Mm.
and Jorginho coming in, but also we did pick up a couple of injuries. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think the lack of squad depth and the experience of winning trophies collectively cost us in the end.
Yeah, it's hard because a lot of people have said different things. Like, obviously, people have said Saliba, and I don't think it's down to that. I think we wouldn't. I don't think we would lose a lot of games just for one player. I think I just felt like the team. Obviously, not the last game of the season. We did do really well, but I think the team probably not. I think in moments it felt like they were giving up, but I think they were just very tired. I
Mm.
think that's what it comes down to, and I think we do need more like of a squad depth. And I think next season, I think we probably will have that. But I think, like you said, it's experience, and I suppose with Arteta it's his first time with Arsenal challenging for the league or just with any club. So I think it's always tough how it's ended, but I do think it's good to kind of look on the positives of the season because, like you said, no one would have expected us to have challenged for the league. It surprised me actually that we did because I didn't expect us to go that far, but it just shows you how far we've come. But for you, what positives have you taken from the season?
So I agree with you on all of your points, by the way. I'd like to say, but for me, as a match-going fan, the experience, the atmosphere in the stadium has been fantastic. I think anyone who has attended even just one game this season would have seen that. The passion from the home fans and the away fans, as usual, has been spectacular this season. And whatever you say about players and how resilient they can be to criticism, if the fans are constantly behind the team, it's going to have a positive effect on the boys, isn't it? And
Yeah.
I remember there was one game, I can't remember who it was against, but Saliba scored an own goal. It was a slightly clumsy header back to the goal, and unfortunately we conceded it. Um, and the whole team just clapped and were behind him, and no one criticised him for scoring an own goal. You could see that he was disappointed himself, but because the fans got behind the team and they were like, "No, come on, pick your heads up and go." We went on to win the game. And I think he actually scored the other side as well, if I remember rightly as well. Or that might have been Gabriel actually on another game. But anyway, the fact remains is that the fans have been absolutely spectacular this season. So I think that's a big part of it. Other positives, again, as I mentioned earlier, is having been successful this season. In many ways, it sets the expectations, the precedent for next season, and also, I think players are more enticed to come and join us. We've obviously been linked heavily with Declan Rice and
Yeah.
other players, and Arsenal seems to be an attractive place to come again. Arteta's a young manager who's clearly progressing each season, and he's obviously learnt from the best in Pep. There's just so many positives. I could sit here for a good half an hour just talking about the positives this season. It's really easy to focus on the negatives, but there have been so many positives.
Yeah, like you said, especially the atmosphere and in that game. I remember, I don't like you said, I can't remember what game that was, but when Saliba, gave away that goal, you could see how much the fans were behind him. And I think as a player, it will help you with your confidence. And I know in recent years, like players have made mistakes, and fans probably haven't been so behind them because they do make the same mistakes. I think with Saliba, he only makes like the odd mistake, like Gabriel, but most of the time, they're great for Arsenal. So it's good to see that positivity from the fans, and I just think there's a big change of like the culture at the club. Like even people will say we haven't won a trophy this year, but I just see a lot of positivity. I see a lot of positive changes at the club. And I do think we're going in the right direction. I think we just fell short at the end. That's what I see it as. And I think next season is very important because I think we do need to win something because we haven't really won since the FA Cup in lockdown time. So I
Mm.
think there might be more pressure next season for Arteta to win something because it has been a while. But I think it has taken time, for him to bring in his own players and what he wants to do. So, um, out of like the team the season, which players would you say impressed you the most?
So I'm going to start actually by just on the back of what you were saying about trophies. So again, I completely agree with you, and I think that where we again one of the negative things that I would say about this season is the fact that we kind of threw all of our eggs in one basket, and we were
Yeah,
so heavily focused on trying to compete with City for the title that actually we threw away the domestic competitions quite easily, especially the Europa League. I would say, it was they were In fact, all of them were really games that we should and could have won and
mm,
didn't. And I think that was disappointing. And if I was to say one disappointing thing, it would be that we didn't go further in other competitions. But best player for me this season, it's very difficult because we've had so many great contenders. I think Saka and Martinelli have hit their goal tally records for the season. Saliba's speaks for himself. But for me, I would have to say Odegaard because he just makes the team tick. Because not only is he so good at what he does, he was our captain and it was his first season as captain. And, you know, the success that we had this season was a large proportion of it was down to him and his leadership on and off the pitch.
yeah,
He conducts himself so well in interviews. He's never afraid to answer awkward questions. He's just he's an inspiration really, and he's still really young. And the way that he conducts himself is what you would expect a 35-year-old player to be like. And so he's a natural leader for me, and I think it was his second season at the club, and it feels like he's been at the club for a decade now. He's just so good. I love Odegaard.
yeah. I agree. I think this
Yeah,
season has been his best season in Arsenal shirt. I think he just knows what Arsenal is about, and yeah, I think bringing them back was definitely the right thing to do. I know a few people weren't sure on bringing them back as he didn't have as many goals as he does this season, but I think he's been probably our best player, like the star of the show. He's the one that dictates everything, and I think we've lacked a real leader,
yeah,
a captain for a while. And I think for me this season he's done really well. Like you said in interviews, he answers anything and he will say everything in the right way, even if it's like an awkward question he might not want to answer. He'll sort of answer it, but say the right thing. And I just think with him as our captain, I think that was the right thing to do. I think originally I liked Tierney, but I guess because Odegaard's playing all the time, it'd probably only be right that Odegaard is the captain. And it looks like Tierney could be going. So I definitely think that Odegaard being our captain is the right thing for this club. So yeah, it's hard to pick like the most that player that's impressed you because there's
yeah,
so many. I think Xhaka's had a great season. I think he's done really well. It's hard to pick one, isn't it? Because there's so
yeah.
many.
Who would you say? Who would you say then? Who would be your favourite?
I think I'd probably say I would say like a few Odegaards in there. I thought Saka has had a good season. I know
Yeah,
to the end of it he has been a bit tired, but I just think he's being played a lot and
yeah,
he's running out of energy a bit. So but I do think Xhaka would probably be our most improved player because I think
mm,
this season he's been really good. I think um, it's kind of weird now because he could be leaving, so it's like it would nice for him to maybe stay another season, but I kind of get, it's time to move on, I suppose. But yeah, I'd go Odegaard. I think Ramsdale's had a great season as well.
yeah,
I think he's obviously made, a few mistakes here and there, but I think he's done really well with, the saves he's made, like the one against Liverpool, I think it was the Mo Salah one. That was incredible.
yeah. I'm not sure your family agree, but absolutely.
It was funny. It was funny that game. Actually, I was watching it with them, and I couldn't I was so anxious. I thought Mo Salah's going to score, and I saw that, and I was like, "Thank
Yeah,
you, thank you for saving us, Ramsdale." But yeah. There's been so many amazing players this season. Now, talking on like Arteta, because like you said, none of us thought we would be challenging for the league this season. We've come quite far. What have you made of the job Arteta's doing here at Arsenal?
Well, again, it all goes back to one of your points, which is on culture. And he really has. In fact, if you cast your mind back maybe 2 years ago, I think there was something in the press that we were employing a marketing agency to try and focus on improving the culture at the club. And there's been lots of progress in improving the culture at the club, which has fed down the system and it's gone to the fans. And as I say, the reason that the atmosphere is so good in the stadium is because of the work that Arteta has done. We were in a real transition mode when Arsene Wenger left, and we went into the Emery era and beyond, and there was a lot of work to do. And he's come in and he's instilled that togetherness, that and he knows what it's like to be an Arsenal fan. He's got Arsenal blood in him himself. He captained the club. He took a pay cut to join us as a player in 2011. He lives and breathes Arsenal, and you
Yeah,
can see how important it is to him that the boys do well. And I know that the Amazon documentary was, some of it obviously was for the camera, but a lot of it I would say was pretty genuine, and you could see his passion and the anger in him when we didn't win games or we didn't fight
yeah,
hard enough. And you can see it on the side of the pitch as well. His pitch side manner, which has often been criticised by certain pundits, and we're not going to name anyone as such, but he's just changed the club in a positive way. And yes, he has made mistakes, as every manager does. There are substitutions that he may have that could have been better, could have made more impact. But ultimately, the job he's doing, if you look at where we were 4 years ago when he joined to now, the difference is incredible. And it's only going to get stronger, in my opinion. So I love him. I think he's great. I'm certainly one that trusts the process.
yeah. Because I know going to the season, I think a lot of people were a bit unsure, missing out to top four, and I think this season he's shown that he can challenge with the title with Arsenal. He can go that far. I think people kind of didn't believe that he could go that far. Obviously we had finished eighth twice, and like we came fifth, so I guess people might not have understood how far we can go, and I think we've done really well. I think it's been a roller coaster with Arteta. I think there's been times where you're really on board with what he's doing, and there's been other times where we've really struggled, and I think he's needed his own players to come in so he can do what he wants to do, because I suppose with Zinchenko and then like Jesus, they can do what Arteta kind of wants to do, and
Mm-hmm.
like his style of play, and he needs the right players that will fit his style of play. So I think he's needed time, and obviously fans don't really want time. They want to win things. Um,
Absolutely, yeah. No, you're totally right. Exactly, and but it's a project, isn't it? It's a
yeah,
project in itself, and projects take time. Doesn't matter what project you're working on. If you want to do a good job, it takes time and investment. And one could argue that Chelsea have done it in the past, or City have done it obviously back in 2008, but there weren't as many teams challenging. There were also more players available. If you look at the players that are available, City obviously picked up Haaland last season, but how many strikers of that quality are there out there that are accessible for
yeah,
any amount of money? And it takes time, and I think this is what a lot of Chelsea fans obviously can't get to grips with. I've
yeah,
read a few, and a lot of them are, they're used to so much success, and it's kind of I guess it's comparable to what we had in 2004, where we were the Invincibles and we were the best team. I remember going to games or watching games and thinking, I've almost forgotten what it's like to lose a game. You know, we every game was a success. It was like how City are now. You know, but it takes time to get that cohesion. It's taken 4 years for Arteta to get to this stage. It took Klopp about 4 years as
Yeah.
well to get to that sort of Champions League winning stage and Premier League winning stage that they were at a couple of seasons ago. We just have to continue to be patient, and whatever way you look at it, we are getting closer. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like you said before, since Wenger left, there was that, like, I think there was a bit of toxicity around the club, and there was like, I don't think the fans were as behind the team now because we've really wanted to win something, in a long time, and I think the club is going in the right direction. But I think next season will be quite important for what we do, like in the Champions League, which we've not been in for years, and I think for me, I would like to see us keep challenging for the league. I think it's about kind of maintaining what we're doing now. Obviously, I want us to win the league, but I suppose with Man City, they will. I know they'll buy more players in the summer and things like that. So going into next season, like you said before, we did put all of our eggs in one basket. We didn't. I think for me, I would like to see us, as well as going for the league, I'd like to see us like go for the FA Cup, go for in the Champions League and do well. What trophies would you like to see us win next season, and what are your expectations of next season?
So yeah, exactly. I just think whether we win it or not, I would like us to at least give it more of a go. I think
Yeah,
it did seem like we crashed out too easily on those domestic and European competitions. I think the whole point of being in the Champions League is to at least compete in it, isn't it? So certainly, this is going to sound like a really strange one. I'd like to see us win a League Cup. You know, like we've
yeah,
come
I agree.
close a few times. You know, in 2011 with the Birmingham City final, City in 2018. Obviously, we've lost out to those. I'd like to see us at least try and win that one because that's quite an
Yeah,
accessible competition to win. FA Cup again, it's the Arsenal trophy, isn't it? Historically, so
yeah,
I'd love to see us win that. Obviously, Arteta has won that already in his first season. So yeah, I would love to see us win one of those. The title is obviously a lot harder to win, and obviously we were close this season. I've got fairly low expectations of the Champions League, mostly because we haven't been in it for so long. So we're going to be a bit shell shocked, I think, and we're going to come up against some really strong teams. So
yeah,
again, it's going to be a bit like our title challenges here. There's a lack of experience. There are obviously players that have played in the Champions League. No one that's really won it apart from Jorginho. It could be challenging for us. But yeah, if I'm going to pick one, I'm going to go for the easy one. I'm going to say I'd like us to win at least the League Cup next season.
yeah. I'm with you on that
Yeah.
because I think last season, I think we got out of like the FA Cup, the League Cup's too easy. Like, I think the FA Cup we did play Man City, so I kind of understand that it was a really difficult game. It was quite. I don't think it was. I don't think we were near the final anyway, so it was just annoying that we had Man City in that round. But I know we would have had to face them anyway, but I think I think we are quite unlucky to get them drawn out. But I think I'd like us to see like just winning like other things. I see people talking that United for the better season than us because they've won like a League Cup or whatever they
Mm-hmm.
won. And like obviously I don't think they have because I kind of think it's about the league and obviously we haven't won anything, but I think like I'm with you on that. I want to see us go for it more next season, and I do think at the end of the season we do struggle to kind of not stay motivated, but I think we just get very tired and we give up a little bit. I think last season we did. I think we've got more experience this time. I think that's why we've done better. I think Zinchenko has been really important part, and I think Odegaard as our captain. I think he's been fantastic, but I just think, like I said, we need to bring more experience in. And talking on like the summer, which players would you love to have at Arsenal?
Sure. I was just going to add to your last point. Sorry, I know I'm going a bit off topic.
No, don't worry.
When you were saying about the players getting tired, I do agree with that. But something's just kind of popped into my mind, and I think a lot of people will agree with this. But always on that last game at home when the pressure's off,
Yeah, we do
doesn't
well.
matter who we play, we win 5-0 or 6-0 every time, don't we?
I
Because
know, it's really weird.
the
I think it's
feeling's
because the
good.
pressure's off us. That's probably
Yeah,
why.
pressure's off. So, but the players are still tired. So, is it a tiredness thing, or is it pure and simply a mental block? Is it the pressure? And I would have to say probably yes, because we do it every season. We go 3 games where we lose or draw, and then suddenly, as soon as that pressure's off and the tired, obviously we don't often challenge for the title, but when we have, like against
Yeah.
Leicester in 2016, and obviously this season, that last game has always been fabulous, isn't it? We've always
It's weird that, isn't it, that we do that?
yeah, and exactly. And you actually asked everyone before the game, oh, what do you think the score's going to be today? And they go, oh, I don't know, 5-0, something like that. And it's always the same thing. It's a pattern each season, isn't it? Anyway, so getting back to your question, who would I like us to sign? So, of course, the obvious one is Declan Rice. I think he would completely strengthen the club, and it's looking more and more likely. We found out today that he has definitely played his last game at West
Yeah.
Ham. So we know that he is definitely on the move, which would suggest that some conversations have taken place between probably Arsenal and West Ham. Reason being is we know that Xhaka is leaving, and I don't think Arsenal would have made it as easy for him to leave unless there was an obvious replacement coming in or lined up. So I would like to see Declan Rice, and I think it's quite likely. We'll see what happens. We want to strengthen, obviously. So we obviously were a little bit short. Hence why we weren't able to get to the end and beat City. So we need to, number one, strengthen the team, but we also need to replace what we're potentially losing. So
Yeah.
as we're losing Xhaka, we have to go and replace with someone like Declan Rice. If we do lose Tierney, as you mentioned before, then we ideally need to get another fullback, which we needed anyway. We needed a bit of cover for fullback, unless the plan is for Tavares to come back. I don't know. And Tomiyasu's quite injury prone, so we would probably need to look elsewhere as a replacement for him. But the key thing for me, certainly if we're not going to give Balogun a go, is to get a striker. We have to get someone that, and I'm not saying that we have to somehow pick out an Erling Haaland out of nowhere, but certainly another forward that can get us a 10, 15, probably more 15 goal tally for the season. Because we really haven't had an out-and-out forward, centre forward since arguably Aubameyang or Lacazette, or even for me, Giroud. I mean, Giroud splits opinion amongst the fan base, but for me, I was a big fan of Giroud. I think he.
Yeah, I liked him.
Apart from pace, and there were games where he did go missing. He had it all. Apart from that, he had the strength. He could score any kind of goal. He was a good team player. He assisted. And quite, and his goals were just really fun to watch. You can look at a show reel of his goals for Arsenal. You think, wow, and he's France's all-time goal scorer now. He was a great player for us. So I think we really need a target man. Certainly, if we're, or we need to give Balogun a chance. So I would say a striker, obviously we need two midfielders really, because
Yeah.
unless the plan is to give Emil Smith Rowe more of a go this season, I don't know. I'm yet to be convinced of that, because I don't think personally Arteta's a big fan of him. So yeah, we need at least three players. We need a fullback, a decent midfielder, maybe two, and a striker.
Yeah, I think it kind of all depends on who stays and there's someone who leaves. I think bringing Declan Rice in, replacing Xhaka. I think that would be a good step for us. But like you said, I think we need to have more squad depth in other
Mm,
competitions like Champions League. And yeah, I do think it's a weird one with Tierney because I'm unsure if he'll leave. There's a part of me that thinks, he
mm,
wants more game time somewhere else. And there's a part of me that thinks, he loves Arsenal. Maybe next season he might get more game time, but I just don't think he's had much. Like, even at the end of the season, Arteta chose to play other players over him when he could have played Tierney. But I suppose if Tierney's not really played in a long time, and it's hard for him to probably get in the rhythm of the game. And it's like, I know I've seen people say that he probably doesn't suit Arteta's style of play anymore. I think I don't. I'm in the middle of that opinion because I think he does add stuff when he comes on, like he helps us. I think sometimes with Zinchenko, I think he's good going forward, but I think sometimes defensively he struggles, and he like sometimes he'll be the one that kind of concedes goals, like it might be his fault. So I think Tierney, because he's so good defensively, like that's why I want him to stay. But I think when Zinchenko's not playing, you just feel something's missing on the pitch. So,
mm.
um, it's a weird one. I mean, I think I would be quite gutted if Cheney left, but I would completely understand because, um, he's not really getting enough game time, and I suppose someone like him shouldn't really be on the bench. But there's a part of
Yeah.
me that thinks because next season we'll be in the Champions League, he'll have a lot more game time if Arteta plays him. So it's a tough one. What are your thoughts on that situation about Tierney?
Yeah, I agree with you. I really rate Tierney. I really like him as a player, and I'm a bit surprised at the lack of game time that he had this season. For a few reasons, I totally agree with you. I think defensively, Zinchenko isn't as strong as Tierney. But you're right, Zinchenko does offer an all-round great game, apart from some of his
Yeah, the
defensive
other
flaws.
mistake.
Apart from some of his defensive flaws, but I've arguably said. To friends and family, I've said that I actually think he's more of a midfielder than a fullback, really, to Zinchenko. I think the way that he gets involved in games, I think he would be potentially better in the middle. But yeah, and I think if we were to let Tierney go, we'd struggle to replace him because he's top quality. And yeah, I guess he's not Arteta's player. It was one that Emery, I think, signed. So I guess we've got to take that into consideration, that he's not an Arteta player, and obviously he's trying to build his own squad. And I know there's a few exceptions to that, like Xhaka, obviously, who he really highly rated, and that was a Wenger signing.
Hmm.
But I guess it all comes down to he wants his own team, wants players that do what that fits in his plan, and maybe Tierney just falls short of that. But yeah, I do agree with you. I'm a bit disappointed, really, of the lack of game time, and I really hope that we do keep him. But like you say, I would understand if he did want to go, because there are teams I know that have been interested, like Newcastle, that he would be very suited to because they've got a very strong.
Yeah.
And it just worries me because they're creeping up the table, Newcastle, and if we
Hmm.
start selling to Newcastle, they're suddenly going to become a true rival. Um,
Yeah, I think they will because I think it'll be really hard, really. If I think it's likely that he could go to Newcastle. I think for me, like, because Newcastle are doing so well, it's probably an exciting move for him or for any player to go to Newcastle because they've done so well. They're in the Champions League and they've got a bright future ahead of them. So it's a weird one, really, because I just think I'll be devastated if he leaves because I suppose when we've really struggled in the last few years, Tierney's been the one that's shown so much passion on the pitch, off the pitch, and he's always sort of got behind the team. And I just think his performances have been really good. And it would kind of be sad if he leaves, but it is Unai Emery signing, and I think he's had a good time at Arsenal. So it will definitely be interesting to see. And if what happens there of his future, and we know Granit Xhaka's future. I think it's likely he'll leave Arsenal. It's not been announced, but I think he wants to do something different now. What have you made of that news, and also Granit Xhaka's time at Arsenal?
Yeah, so it's been a turbulent time at Arsenal, to say the least, with Xhaka. So look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I was a big critic of Xhaka, until the last season or two, mostly because I just felt, whilst some of the challenges were probably a bit soft, that they gave him penalty, red cards for yellow cards, red cards for. I do, sometimes his attitude and just some of the clumsiness in his play used to really frustrate me. And I just felt that it was time for him to move on about 3 or 4 years ago. And a lot of people that follow me on Twitter will know how critical I was of Xhaka, as were many. But over the last couple of seasons, his all-round game has improved tremendously, mostly because his position has also changed. But also he's cut out some of these silly challenges. He still gets stuck in, but he's become more mature, not only in his personality, and not that I know him personally, but certainly how he conducts himself in interviews, etc., and on and off the pitch. And he's matured in a lot of ways, in his play, his attitude, leadership, etc. And I'm now really sad that he's leaving. I think, and I think most fans are, and I think he's quite an exceptional story, really, because there's not many players that would be able to have the criticism or the controversy that he's had at the club and really turn it around. So 80-90% of the fans are really gutted that he's leaving. And and the last game that he played, he scored his first brace for the club, was testament to that. That it was like, oh, why is he leaving again? He's really he's come a long way in the last couple of seasons, and I'm really gutted he's going, and and I wish him all the best, whether it's Bayer Leverkusen he goes to or someone else. They're going to get a great player.
It's strange, isn't it? Because when that incident happened with Xhaka, I think I didn't agree with what he did, but obviously I didn't agree with the booing he got. So it's a weird one, because I've spoken to so many people, and people have so many different opinions. With that situation, they either like Xhaka or hated him. It was like Marmite. You either love it or you hate it.
He was the Marmite of Arsenal, wasn't he?
It's funny that, isn't it? And it's like you said, it is very incredible how it's changed. And I thought when that incident happened, I did think he would be gone, and I think it was hard because I felt so hurt. And I think if he went at that moment, I wouldn't be upset, and that's hard to say. But now, it's because it's been turned around, and because he's had such an incredible season. It's hard to kind of process the fact that he probably won't be here next season, and I think we will miss him because I do think he's a leader. I think he's probably a leader without being the captain. I think suppose when you're the captain, it's a lot of responsibility, and it was hard. I think I definitely don't think Aubameyang was the captain. I think Granit Xhaka was a good leader, but I just think Odegaard has this calmness, and I think with Xhaka he can get angry quite easily. I think he's not had red cards in ages, but I just think he's got a bit of a temper sometimes, and I think the situations that I think he didn't help us in, but I do think I think when I look back on his time at Arsenal, I think he should be happy with, with the season he's had. I think last season he did good as well, but I think this season, I think he's just been very consistent in everything that he's done. I think he scored a lot of goals. I think a lot of young players look up to him, and it'll be hard when he's not in, around the team. I suppose players look up to him, and I just think it's important for us to have kind of leaders to look up to in the dressing room. I suppose now it depends who we bring in the summer, but I do think we need to bring a lot of players in. I think having that experience will be vital for us. I think, like you said, we need a striker. I think, like you said, when Aubameyang was on top form, he was really good, and we need someone like that. Like you said, Giroud, just someone that can just probably get us maybe 15 to 20 goals a season. I know we've got like Eddie, but I don't think he could probably do that for us. I think maybe he can score 10 goals a season, but I think we need someone that is going to score us 20, I think, anyway.
We do, and it's difficult to find, isn't it? That's the problem. I think if you were to even try and scour the market in your head, you would think, who is there? Like you can't, barring players like Mbappe or someone like that, you can't think. There's really not that many that you can think of. And I've got to admit, I'm not one of these people that sits there and watches multiple leagues
Yeah,
and
neither am
secret
I.
scout, got a secret scout like some fans are on Twitter. So I don't really know who's out there and who's hot. At the moment, and of course it's not only that, it's who would settle down in the Premier League and hit the ground running straight away. But as I've said to you before, my honest opinion is that we should give Balogun a go just for one season. I mean, we did it with Saliba last season. A lot of people said to me on Twitter, well, it's a farmers league in France. It's even Lacazette has scored 25 goals this season or whatever it is. It's a lot easier to play out there. And whilst I agree with that to an extent, Mbappe has only ever played in the French league. So if we rate him so highly, why don't we rate Balogun so highly? Also, Saliba, I know he's a different position, but he played in France last season and everyone was raving about him. No one knew he was going to be so good in the Premier League, but we gave him that chance this season, and we want to give him a lifetime contract now. So I certainly, and I just feel that if we were to sell him now, it's like, why did we have him? He was an academy player. We've trained him up. We've developed him, and we've sent him on loan, and he's done the business, and he's got 20 plus goals this season. What are we doing? Why are we selling this player now? And if we're not going to get like 60 million plus for him, just keep him. I say, give him a season, one season. If he doesn't do anything this season, send him on next season. We need a striker.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think I'm all for giving Balogun a chance. I think, I definitely think, we are getting goals from like midfield, on the wing as well, which is good. But I think, Jesus has been injured a bit. And I think when we played our last game this season, I think Jesus was on the wing actually, and I think he did quite well there. But I think for me, I think I'd give Balogun a chance. Like, I think maybe I'd bring another person in, but because I know we'll be in different, competitions, and I think we will do well. I don't expect us to win the Champions League. I just want us to go far in it, because I know in years we've really struggled and we've got beaten really badly. So I think I'd just like to see us give it a go. But I would like to see Balogun play. I don't think we've got much to lose. I know some fans think we should, sell him and get the money for him, but I think we should keep him. Like, I'd want to give him a chance to see what he can do at Arsenal, and I suppose we're in the Champions League. I think he would do really well, and obviously on the loan, he's done really well. He's got the most out of it. So, I'm with you on that. I completely agree with you.
Yeah, that's it. And I think, look, it's always a risk because obviously we say, yeah, we need to get someone else in. and have him as a. But the problem is, obviously, he's made it quite clear that he wants to be first choice. He wants to be playing football week in, week out. So I guess Arteta and Edu are speaking to him, saying, "Well, what do we do here?" Because the boy isn't willing to sort of work his way into the team. He wants to play. He wants to be a regular starter. We
Mhm.
need a striker because as great as Jesus is, he's not an out and out centre forward. He's just not. He's a. If anything, I would say Martinelli is more of a centre forward than Jesus is.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah, there's a decision that has to be made as to are we going to go and buy externally and sell Balogun, or are we going to give him that chance? I don't think we can keep Balogun and go and get another top centre forward. It's one or the other. So it's a tough
Yeah.
decision. It's a potentially good problem to have, apart from having to find a player. But it's good that we've got someone who is so useful in our ranks that we can hopefully call upon. But we'll see. We'll see how it
Yeah.
goes.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think it'll be interesting to see what we do, decide on that. I think Arteta probably would like to see what he can do at Arsenal. I think he's just done so
Mm,
well on loan. I suppose when you go on loan sometimes you don't always get as much out of it as you want because you're kind of really going out your comfort zone, going to a different club. So I think he's done really well and yeah, I'd really like him to see. I'd be a bit disappointed if we did sell him because I kind of
mm,
thought, what if we could have been at Arsenal, had a great career like Saka, and but I think if he does go, we never wish him well. But yeah, I'll be a bit disappointed because I do think he's got a good future ahead of him. But I definitely think the striker position is something that needs sorting. Really, we did bring Jesus in, and I think you can't really predict when players are going to get injured, and Eddie has sort of taken over when he was out injured. I think he did a fairly good job, but I think we just need a striker that will come in and just score like 15 to 20 goals season, something like that, because I suppose that would have probably helped us last season with the games that we sort of struggled to score in.
mm.
Um,
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I was disappointed really with how Nketiah's season went because there really
mm,
was an opportunity for him when Jesus got in.
yeah,
And he started quite well. I think he got a couple of goals, and it looked like okay, he'll do the business for us. And then the goals dried up, and not only did his goals dried up, his entire performance dried
yeah,
to the extent where we didn't really see him for majority of the season. We'd see him maybe for the last 5 minutes of a game, but I think the trust was just lost really with him, wasn't it? In the end, and it was a real shame because he did really well at the end of season before the one just gone. And I think he scored like 7 in 7 games, and he really looked
mhm,
like he when it was
yeah,
kind of when Lacazette wasn't performing and he gave Nketiah a chance. He did really well. We gave him this new contract, and I was one of the guys on Twitter. It was like, come on, let's give him a chance. And I had to
yeah. See what you can
say,
do.
yeah, a few people were like, oh, he's not up to it. He's not of the quality that we need. And I was like, yeah, let's give him time. You never know. Blah blah blah. But actually, he didn't make the most of it, unfortunately.
Yeah,
And it's a big shame because there is a player there, and he's a good finisher when he's on form. But it's consistency, isn't it? And that's what we need.
yeah, I felt like that. I think obviously in games like he scored the winner against United, that was amazing, everything. And
Mm,
I think I'm like you. I think he scores some really clever goals, some really good goals, but we don't see it enough from him.
mm.
It's sort of like every so often, and like you said, um, when he wasn't scoring, there was sometimes like he wasn't doing anything on the pitch, and I think like if you're not scoring goals, like say when Jesus before he was injured, he was struggling to score, but he was still adding something on the pitch. He was still working hard to win the ball back and help the team. And I felt with Eddie, there wasn't much. Maybe he wasn't motivated. He just I don't
Yeah.
know. I think like he's probably a good okay to have around, the team in other competitions, but I don't think you would start him. I think Trossard has came in and I think he's earned his place. I think he's done more than when he's came in than Eddie has in certain games, but it's a hard one. I don't know what Eddie's level is. I don't know if I know people say he's championship level, but he can still do really good at Arsenal. He just doesn't do it enough.
I agree with you, and you made a really valid point. I was actually going to bring exactly the same point up about Trossard. If you compare Nketiah to Trossard, whilst he doesn't score a lot of goals, he only scored the one goal for us, Trossard, this season when he came on. But he's got something like 10 or 11 assists in the end. He and I'm really sorry if I'm getting all these stats wrong, but it was roughly 10.
No, don't worry.
The messenger. It was roughly 10. Which is a really good return. And I think there was it against Bournemouth? Okay, I'm so sorry. My memory's terrible tonight. There was one game where he got a hat trick of assists in the first half. And that's an incredible achievement. And I think I think he actually broke a record for that. And he just adds something. And whilst he's not scoring goals, which I think he'll do more next season, I think he'll be working on that, because at Brighton he was a lot more of a goal threat. He was more clinical at Brighton. I think, but when he wasn't scoring goals, he was assisting, and he was just making an impact and adding value, and that was the difference between him and Eddie. And I think Lacazette did that again. Going back to him, I think when he wasn't scoring until right at the end of last season, he was at least contributing. He was sort of assisting and just getting involved and always fighting.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of fans are forgiving of that. I think, as long as you do something on the pitch, as long as you contribute to an extent, then if you're not scoring, it's not so bad. It was, Aubameyang, we saw it even when he was playing for Chelsea this season. There was that one game they gave him against us a couple of months ago. And I watched him. I don't know. I was at the game, and just before kickoff, they always have a little practice session, and they take a shot. He kept hitting the post and the crossbar. He looked like he was doing the crossbar challenge, and all our fans are like, "Hey!" when he kept missing, and that just set the template of the game for him, because he had, was it 4 touches? I think 4 or 5 touches the whole game. One being kick from the penalty spot, from the halfway line, which is embarrassing, because he was on that pitch for 45 minutes and he had like 4 touches. That is tremendously bad. And he did it for Arsenal. He did it. There were countless of games where you would look at his stats and there would be like, in that last season or two he was at Arsenal, 12 touches the whole game. That's not good enough.
I know, it's crazy with Aubameyang, like how much he's like declined. Like at Arsenal, I genuinely thought he was gonna be like a future legend. He might, one day get a statue, and then him signing the deal, things just slowly, gradually went downhill, and then going to Barcelona and then going to Chelsea. Like, I think when he moved to Chelsea, I just knew it wouldn't work, because I just think he's just lost. I know he's getting older, but I just think in his head he was just quite young. Like, and I know in the change room at Arsenal, he was like the joker and he wasn't always serious. And at Chelsea, I just didn't kind of see it working, and I'm kind of glad it hasn't worked.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so the last thing we wanted was another Fabregas type.
It would have been really painful if it worked out at Chelsea. I would have been really upset.
Yeah, it would have been. It would have been exactly like Fabregas or Van Persie at United, wouldn't it? But yeah, absolutely, and it's a huge shame, because I think majority of fans absolutely worshipped him. Especially in that in the FA Cup season, when we during COVID, when we won the FA Cup, he was unstoppable, and he signed that contract. And if I remember the promo video for that, he was saying he wants to be a legend like Thierry Henry.
I know, it was a big thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I don't know what happened, but it just steadily, as you say, it wasn't even steadily actually. It was a rapid decline.
My best friend told me he's a
Yeah.
So it's a real shame. But anyway, enough about him.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think
Yeah.
with some players at Arsenal in the past, I think when they get a big deal, it's sort of I don't know if it's like they've got the money now and they're not motivated when they're on the pitch. It's hard because I don't know where it went wrong, but I think for our future, I think it's like important that we get like with Lacazette and Aubameyang, they just were really well. They just had this connection, and I think I'd like to see a striker come in, and I think we've got the right tools now. Like you said, Trossard, I think next season he'll be really good. I think Odegaard, hopefully Partey will stay, which I think he will. So I think, we're building a really good team. We just need to add on a few more experienced players for us to go even further next season.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I think you made a good point about partnerships as well. We had it when Giroud was at the club. Him and Özil had a really great understanding, and Sanchez and Özil as well had a really great pairing, and that really helps, doesn't it? I think, and I hate to use this example, but as much as we don't like Spurs, whatever happens, we in recent years, when you look at the sort of Kane and Son partnership, it's important to have that partnership, isn't it? And I think that it's something that you truly need. And I think actually Martinelli and Saka really complement each other. And I think the reason that they've kind of got that share of goals is actually because they've got that understanding with each other. And it's like, right, okay, you're on the left, I'm on the right, okay, and you're responsible for what goes down that side. And there's just an understanding there, and they stick to their positions. They have this sort of, I guess, this sort of, what's the word? This telepathic understanding. And I think that really helps, doesn't it? And yeah, and that's the one thing I do miss about Ozil, is that he had that when he was on his real top form. He had that telepathic understanding with players. There's that famous meme, that GIF, isn't there, of Giroud and Ozil like that to each other. There was that.
Yeah.
I really feel like we missed that sometimes, or we have missed that until this season just gone, like with Saka and Martinelli, for instance. So yeah, I think it's really important to have partnership. And actually, my dad always says that he personally feels as though Gabriel isn't as strong when Saliba's not available. Mm-hmm. He feels that Saliba makes Gabriel a better player. Yeah. And it was the same when Koscielny was with us and Mertesacker. That was one of our strongest partnerships that we had since the sort of Tony Adams era, because or even Sol Campbell. There was that connection. There is that togetherness, that partnership, and I would agree with that. I think Saliba makes Gabriel a stronger player, and I think it's taken 2 or 3 players. Like, obviously, Kiward came into the team at the end of the season, but Holding wasn't quite the right partner for Gabriel.
Yeah.
It's really important to have those partnerships, for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Gabriel, with partnerships he's had, I think he's been with like Pablo Mari. I think he's had Rob Holding. I think he's been with Rob Holding a lot. So I think when you play with I think Steve is probably one of the best. I think when he was playing in the league last season, I think it was probably one of the best defenders from what I've seen. And I think when you play with someone at that level, I think it probably makes you a better player. So I think I think Gabriel, maybe his performances weren't as good because Saliba, they've built this partnership, and when Saliba's not there, it's hard to change and work with someone else. I think Gabriel's worked with Rob Holding a lot, but I think Saliba and Gabriel have this great partnership. So next season, I think hopefully we'll see more of that. And like with injuries, you can't never predict it, and it was a bit of a shame that Saliba missed so many games. I think if we played him against Man City, I think maybe we would have done better. But I think, I think Saliba's a fantastic player, and we've wanted to see him for a while. And it's good that he's gone and got that experience, and now he's got the opportunity to play.
Yeah, he's just incredible, isn't he? He really, he's just.
Yeah,
We just haven't had a centre back like him for years, really. He's just probably since Sol Campbell. He just adds so much to the game, and and he's quick as well, which helps. He's got those long legs,
yeah,
and he's a leader. He's a natural leader to me. I feel like not yet, but he is a sort of captain contender in the future because he's just so cool, isn't he? And I think if he can get if he can he looks like a quite reserved character, but I think if he was to work on his confidence a bit, how he sort of addresses himself, he would make good captain material one day.
yeah, definitely.
Because Gabriel is essentially more experienced than Saliba, but he makes Gabriel a better player, and he makes the whole defense a better
Yeah,
player.
he does.
So yeah, he's really really improved us, and whilst I don't agree that it was down to him that cost us the league, it was definitely a big part of it because, as you say, we would have done better against City, and I think there was certainly one or two games where
Yeah,
we lost or drew that we wouldn't have drawn or lost had we have had him in the team. The Everton game, or even drawing against Brighton, losing to Brighton, etc. And drawing against Southampton. Those games were all winnable games for us, and you just feel like we would have at least done a bit better defensively with him in the team.
yeah. I think that. I think, like you said, the West Ham game, the Southampton game. I think since then that was when we kind
Yeah.
of went downhill. But I definitely think having Saliba not in this team has affected. I think it must affect our team because I'm sure he's an important player in the dressing room as well. And yeah, it was a big loss, but I think next season, I think we will definitely come back stronger. I think, like you said, it will be harder next season because, like, I don't think Man United will be up there with us. I personally think we're a bit ahead of them at the moment, but there's other
Mm.
teams around us like Newcastle. It depends on. It's hard with Liverpool. I don't really kind of know how to feel about that. I mean, they just missed out on top four this season, but they're probably around there. So I think it will definitely be a lot more difficult next season. So I think I've always said this just to take it like a game at a time and just see what happens, and hopefully next season we can win something.
Yeah, exactly. And as I said to you earlier on today, I think this season just gone has set the precedent for next season, and
Yeah,
I personally feel that we can only improve from here. It I think the key thing, as we said earlier, is to try and put a bit more focus on other competitions, and certainly in the Champions League, give that a good run. Otherwise, there's no point being in it.
yeah.
Uh, we, yeah, as long as we give it a go and we really, the players really try their best, I think the fans are happy. I think one of the worst things, and I think what was so disappointing when we did play Man City, is every one of us expected to lose that game.
Mm,
Unless you're overly ambitious, majority of us expected to lose that game. That was meant to be our nest egg, wasn't it? That was meant to be the game
mm.
that we could afford to lose because we were 6 points or so clear. We had that one in the bag. That was in the bank for us. We should have just lost that game, and the rest of them one or two draws, and the rest wins. But it didn't work that way, and when we did play City, it was men against boys, and
Yeah, it was quite hard to watch, I suppose.
yeah, and had it have been like the Manchester FA Cup
Yeah.
cup final, where, to be honest with you, I actually feel in some ways Man United were the stronger team in some respects. I think
Mm,
City actually weren't at their best. I think Man
mm.
United actually really fought. I hate to say it, uh, but they look really impressive, and they at least gave it a go, and we just we just we were just on a different planet to them, really. And that, I think, next season, as long as we give it a go, and we did this, 3 years ago, when we won that FA Cup final, when we beat City in the semi-final and Chelsea in the final, we gave it a go. We knew City was stronger than us. At the time, we knew
Mm.
that Chelsea was stronger than us, but we gave it a go, and we truly deserved. That was the most impressive FA Cup I think I've actually seen us win, because the last three or four have been, with like Wigan and
Yeah.
you know teams like that, Southampton, teams where they just haven't been. Villa in 2015, they've been,
Yeah.
we should beat, but it's extra special when you beat teams like, I know we beat Chelsea in the 2017 final, but just to beat City and Chelsea that year was something special. And if we can at least do that and give it a go next season against City, I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, I definitely think it's like a mentality thing with like
Yeah.
say Man City. We know they probably have the better squad than us at the moment, but I think when we played them in the leagues, I don't think we tried very much. That's how it felt. I think obviously Man City are so good, but I think we would have. I think it'd be nice if the team put a bit of fight into their performance, and like I didn't expect to win the game, but I just expected, to for it. I wanted to be proud of the performance that I saw, and um, hopefully next season we can do better. It's hard because every season we do struggle against Man City, and I see other teams, like Nottingham Forest, they can manage to draw with them, and I just think it'd be nice for us to get a result against Man City. But I don't think we're far off them. I think in
Mm,
the FA Cup game we were a lot better than the league game. I think it was quite a close game in the FA Cup. It felt like if we cut out a few of our errors, we could do really well. I
yeah.
think because we were playing Man City at a bad time, I think we were low in confidence, and without Saliba, it doesn't feel a lot of confidence going into the game. So I think next season it'd be great to see how we manage against them, and I think obviously we will strengthen our squad. And yeah, I think we can do better next season. And I've really loved chatting with you, Ellis, today.
Oh,
Um, it's been really good fun. And yeah, I hope everyone here has enjoyed listening to us. Ellis, do you want to just let people know where they can look for you on social media?
Oh, thank you. It's been absolutely wonderful speaking to you, Soph, and thank you so much for having me on your show. Honestly, it's an honour to speak to you, and I love you to bits. You're one of my best friends, and you're just a great person, and we all speak very highly of you.
Oh,
Um,
likewise.
so in terms of social media, my my at on Twitter, I think is the Ellis Scott, the Ellis Scott. On Instagram, I don't really use Instagram very much, but it's Elgo Designs, ELGO Designs. But again, I'm not really an active user on that, so nothing too exciting there. But majority of people, a lot of fans do follow me on Twitter, and quite often I come up with something funny, I think. But yeah, obviously, it's been great speaking to you, and I've really, really enjoyed this, and hopefully next season we'll challenge again, and hopefully we can meet up at a game next season.
Yeah, I would really love that. And I think next season, I think I feel quite positive going into next season. And hopefully, we'll do it. And I hope you guys that are watching this back, enjoy this video, and hope you can follow Ellis on Twitter. He's quite funny on Twitter to look at. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, I'll see you all in my next video. Bye.
Oh, thank you. So, bye, bye.